Record now. Okay, so welcome to the Where Are the Female Producers panel, day 2 of Women's Work Festival, and we are joined by Marion, Sarah, Timmy, John and Hannah. And I'm going to ask those guys to introduce themselves because they'll do the best job of telling us what they do. I'm going to start with you, Hannah, if you want to kick us off.
Hi everybody. So I am a composer and artist. I release records and I also write music for film and TV and different adverts. Like I've just done a Greenpeace, a big advert for them campaign, and I'm currently in London to see a premiere of a piece I've just written for an ensemble called the Manchester Collective, which is my first live concert since November 2019. It's nice to be here.
That is so exciting, Hannah. Thank you so much for carving some space out for us. I'm going to go with John next, please.
My name's John. So I work with Timmy in Bemis. We deliver electronic music workshops, DJing workshops, but we also run a project called All Points Arts to promote electronic and acoustic musicians, creating music vids. And that was kind of our stimulus for getting in contact with yourself, Charlene, earlier in the year.
Thanks a million, John. Appreciate it. Marion, you're up next, please.
Hi, I'm Marion. I've been DJing for around 10 years or so and also promoting some club nights. I ran Girl with Venus Dupree and currently run queer friendly Pony Hawk with Dylan. And I am about to open my own record store pretty soon.
Woo! I just say that I absolutely love that news. I was delighted to see it break on social media. Fair play to you. That's cracking. I love it even more that it's in East Belfast because that's where I live. Thank you. Sarah, I'm going to go to you next, please.
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah McBriar. I set up AVA Festival and Conference 7 years ago now, which is a mad thing to say that it's been 7 years. And it's consistently grown and blossomed, let's say, into a very healthy child. And now runs around Belfast and London, which is really nice. Timmy, I've been working with since the beginning, Marion as well, and Hannah and John, we've met and crossed paths many times along the way. And same with Charlene. We have our Belfast office in the OES Centre, and we've got a very close affiliation with them. And yeah, it's great to be a part of this panel and to play a role in the conversation. It's something we're really keen to encourage, let's say.
Thanks a million, Sarah. Appreciate it. And last but not least, Timmy, can we hear from you?
Yeah, I've been working in the sort of electronic music world I'd worked out recently 27 years. So that's been through DJing, music production, promoting events, and now actually delivering training, to sort of help others. Mentoring many artists from Northern Ireland kind of along the way, because I was always very thankful for the help that I was given by people like David Holmes and stuff. So it became very important to me to sort of to pass that down and sort of keep this whole thing going. So, and yes, work on the All Points video project that John and I started. And I was really aware through my extended play digital label that we were coming up on 85 releases, and we had never, and it's all Irish artists, and we had never released a track by a female artist. So I was aware that I'm involved with the competitions on the AVA side and the sort of entries that we get as well. I think we've maybe only had across the 6 years or something like 2 or 3 females. Maybe the music wasn't suitable for our label, but it was just it's this terrible ratio. Why is this? And through our All Points project as well, we wanted to showcase artists from Northern Ireland in the live music and electronic world, and we really struggled, to find the right balance, for male and female. So we're really aware there's a problem, and I think for John and I discussing this, I'd reached out to you, Charlene, to sort of see if there was stuff that I didn't know about and I wanted to be more aware of, but we are aware that there's a problem. We're here today to sort of learn a wee bit more from you guys about what you think, why you think those problems exist and what they are. And we are also very keen to sort of help out in any way through the training side and through our video project to sort of showcase artists and how we can address these issues.
Brilliant, Timmy. You touched on so much, Sarah, and I'm going to come back to quite a bit of that because there's lots of great frames there on what we can discuss in terms of the ratios. And actually throughout Women's Work Festival over the last couple of years, we've really welcomed the opportunity to open up difficult discussions where we can try and learn a bit. So I think the objective for today is that we try and expose maybe what different perspectives are there and see if there's any threads that prevail through all of them, because I think talking's really important, but action's vital. So I guess once we learn what's going on or what the thoughts are here, we can then maybe start to push that forward. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for you all to be here. And I guess let's start with the perspective from the performers. So I'm going to look at Marion and Hannah here for the first kind of section of this. And I guess it's really, you've had to start your creative career as females in the electronic music space. And you've both had success in doing that. But at what cost and how difficult was that? And I'm really keen for you just to share kind of maybe the pathways that you've taken and some of the experiences you've had and things that you maybe feel have limited some of your progress or lack of support in certain ways. I really just want you to kind of, share as much as you're comfortable about that journey. So whoever wants to start first, really, either of you?
I'll go first.
Marion, thank you.
I kind of, I'd always been into music. Like I'd been buying records obsessively since I was about 16, 17 and started off there. But I didn't really, I wasn't someone who was going out to clubs regularly either, so it was very much a kind of quite just me in my bedroom, listening to records and getting very like immersed in the music. And I for me, DJing sort of happened really out of the blue. It was a period when I wasn't so much kind of into electronic music, maybe listened to sort of other styles like some weird indie and stuff. Like, and it fell pretty much on my lap, and but getting re-immersed in that world again kind of ignited the flame. And I didn't know where to start because, like I say, I wasn't a clubber. I didn't know a lot of people from that scene. So I pretty much had to just start from scratch and kind of putting out feelers and getting in touch with the people who I knew were sort of players and on the local kind of DJ circuit. So the likes of Timmy, and there was Gavin Wilson and the guys at Mixmaster and Sean McCann. And I just kind of reached out to them, and they were very helpful in giving me direction and support. There weren't any real kind of female role models to look up to then, or kind of aspire to what they were doing. So it just happened that kind of these guys were there, and they were so welcoming and happy to share their knowledge, which was a big help to me at the start, and progressing on over the last load of years. I've kind of, like Timmy says, you want to pay that forward. I think people here are really approachable for the most part, and if you want advice on something starting out, then my best kind of like tip to someone getting into this is just ask for advice and tips, and people will happily share their knowledge on that. Yeah, it's just, sorry, I've kind of zoned out a bit. It's too much.
Yeah, no.
Bit more career.
Well, I guess just to open up one aspect of that. So you said that, there were lack of maybe female kind of role models in it. But I think from my perspective, it's clear that you became one of those people because, you wanted to be that to others, and the girl DJ collective then that formed out of that. You want to talk a little bit about maybe the rationale behind that,
Sure. It just became, like you say, out of that. Like, I was quite surprised that there weren't any women kind of DJs out there on a small scene like Belfast, because, maybe half the kind of the split of clubbers were women. They'd go out and enjoy the music. It just baffled me how it wasn't being applied then into being behind the decks. There were maybe a few that I'd heard of, but not so kind of visible or working regularly. So yeah, I don't know, it just sort of happened that I've become kind of one of the people who others sort of look towards. And I knew that Claire was doing similar. We just decided to like combine forces, and it acted as a bit of a support group for both of us as well. We give each other a lot of ideas and bounce kind of different areas in that off each other, because Claire is very good at events and kind of pitching that side. So it was almost like a precursor to the boom that came afterwards, because even when we were doing it, it wasn't so well received. Like most of our club nights as girl were pretty empty. We didn't tend to get support, just because I think nightlife here was a bit swamped anyway, with a lot of nights popping up, and it's a small pool. So it wasn't until kind of our run, I've lost all track of time as well with COVID. So I can't, I'm like, is it 3 years ago, 4 years? It's just this kind of missing year. But when we came to our last girl night, it was probably one of our best nights. It was so well attended and the buzz there was great. But we also brought in a couple of new DJs who had came to our workshops, and we'd sort of started to like give them a bit of a boost and the encouragement to go forward and follow the path. So it wasn't until we ended then there was a bit of an influx of women DJs on the local scene. But I'd like to think that we encouraged that to happen. I think visibility and seeing someone out there behind the decks is a greater kind of encouragement to anyone to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think when the likes of yourself was starting to feature on a lot more bills, and then Orla and Holly, and then I think that's that confidence thing of like, well, other people are going, well, I want to do that too. So that role model thing is definitely an important thing. You need to see people out there actually living it, and that inspires others to sort of go for it. Because I think I don't know, but from what is confidence. Is it a confidence thing? Is that a big factor? And we were thinking that from we put calls out for, about female producers, and we want to give opportunities and things like that. And they weren't really picked up on. I think we only got one person who headed up, who then we subsequently featured on the project and things like that, and really started to mentor a wee bit as well. But I do think confidence plays a part there, does it?
Absolutely. I think it's also the baffling with the amount of women who kind of love music and now DJ. It's going forward. Surely the next step for me would be that progression into producing. But you're right about the confidence thing. I think putting yourself out there and putting yourself forward, maybe it's like too much, or maybe people are kind of like I don't know, hesitant to do so, to be judged. There's times where I've played and there's been a crowd of like guys behind me, and they're all ready to jump on the decks or kind of offer their insight into, it's like a kind of, I don't know, they're waiting like to catch the next bus almost. But like women don't really seem to do that. They'll be quite standoffish and just wait their turn. But I think maybe it's that you have to push yourself that bit harder and push yourself forward. Yeah.
Very interesting. Hannah, I'm going to go to you actually, just because it's really important to me to kind of understand a little bit of kind of your journey. But I think within the context of this, like, anything that felt particularly difficult, maybe as a, gender related issue or lack of support that maybe you were seeing other people getting? I guess it's just trying to understand your insight.
Yeah. There's you know, I guess one of the things that I've always produced my own music, but I've only had the confidence to call myself a producer in the last 3-4 years. Like I've always kind of gone, oh no, I'm not a producer, I'm a musician or I'm a composer, but no, I'm not, I'm a producer, right? That's what I do, and I always have done. And be that putting on a festival in Liverpool like back in 2008, I produced that, or be it, you know, I guess there is that confidence of labeling yourself as a woman and not wanting to kind of maybe step on somebody's toes or feel like, oh, I'm not good enough in that kind of regards. I guess, you know, if I was now and I had the opportunity to go back in time with who I am now, I would definitely change things. But there's different aspects that I came up against in my whole career that, you know, and it's kind of one of them stories of like, you know, I produced a record. The record itself did really, really well. I ended up self-producing it, but before that we'd sent it to a couple of labels and, you know, quite well-known labels down in London, and one of the main responses back was, we've already got a female artist the same as you. And I'll never forget that. I was like literally like gobsmacked. And actually that other artist is Anna Meredith, which I don't think we're the same at all. I think we're very, very different. So I think that fueled me to go, do you know what? I'm going to fucking put out my own records and I'm going to do it this way, because this is the only way I can get support. And if it takes me longer to then sessioning with electronic artists like John Fox and OMD, and those people actually that were in the 80s were the ones that gave me all the opportunities, because they were like, oh, there's somebody young, there's somebody new, we're gonna I love that there's a cat going across there. And so I learned that way. But and one of the main things, like what Marion was saying, that, you know, there's the role model aspect is massive, like in electronic music particularly. One of the things that I really remember strongly was when I was gigging with John Fox. For those who don't know John Fox, he was in Ultravox in the kind of late 70s, and he went on to do his own solo records. He was kind of the synth pioneer. He inspired and has worked with likes of like Gary Newman, and so many people have been influenced by his kind of real gritty electronic music. And we did a show in Poland, and Cozy Fanny Tutti, who's married with Chris Carter, and if you've ever read her book, which is Art, Sex and Music. Anyway, she was in Throbbing Gristle, and Throbbing Gristle were on before us on stage in Poland in this huge tram shed, and it was the first time that I'd seen a woman on stage, electronic artist, fully, you know, just embraced and enjoyed by everybody in the room, and just thought, wow. And she had like an enigma around her anyway. And that was the first time I've actually met a woman and gone, okay. And, you know, by this point, I'm in my mid-20s. So it's hard to say, you know, I think what we've got to do and what we have to do for the future is be the role models and be the people talking about it, and offer skills and guidance and kindness. And I think that's a major part of it. The people that I've kind of grown with and developed with and have given me opportunities have been the ones that have been the nicest and the kindest, and the ones that are the most open, really.
Yeah, Hannah, that's brilliant. We got a message there from Sinead on the chat box, just talking about reinforcing that notion that confidence is a big limiter for a lot of people and not having that confidence. So let's maybe talk about that for a minute. Like what makes you feel confident? I think one of the things is having maybe other role models in the space like you, and you feel part of that gang. But just to expand that a bit, you know, to feel confident is to feel supported as well. And I guess let's talk about the support structures that are there. And I want to bring John and Timmy and Sarah into this, because they're all involved in support structures in different ways. So John's an educator in a lot of ways for young musicians coming through, and electronic musicians. Sarah obviously creates a whole festival and curates a bill that creates visibility. And Timmy's a veteran of the scene and involved in both of those two aspects as well. So I think it's like the support. I want you to unpack that in your own words, but I also want to talk about the support from just maybe the faceless entities on social media, and how that can do a lot to build confidence or take it away. I just want everyone to think about that for a moment and maybe share any experiences on if social media is helping this problem or making it worse for females wanting to get into electronic music. So who wants to kick off there? Maybe Sarah, do you want to lead with AVA's kind of view on all of this and any difficulties you faced? And also, because you're a woman booking and running an entire electronic music festival, I just want to shout out to that being an amazing example in itself. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, firstly, I can totally relate to the issue we're discussing here about lack of role models and potentially feeling like you have to be really comfortable at being very different and being comfortable at like people, which is not easy, at people sort of perceiving you in what they see as a man's role. And I hate to say that, I really, really do. Because I don't think it's right. But you do, I don't know, Marion, if you can relate to this, and Hannah as well. And maybe that's Hannah, why you like held back from saying that producer title. I was fortunate from my own position, because there's I don't know any other women in the North anyway, but I mean, there's one other woman actually, sorry, that it does do something similar, but there was a lack, definitely, I felt of what I was doing, but I'd been fortunate to work on many festivals in mainland England, and have a lot of experience outside of Northern Ireland to see, and for me there was a real excitement at the fact that a lot of stuff wasn't being done, and I felt like there's a real space for change. And quite clearly there was, or we wouldn't have grown and been successful over that period of time. And I had a lot of support, echoing what Marion said, from the likes of Timmy and other key people in the electronic community, like Matt and Andy from Bicep, Oisin, and then an amazing team that was able to build over time. So I think one thing that I want to encourage is like a change of mindset that you have to do in your own head. It's almost like you have to build it yourself. And it's about kind of creating this like understanding of your close alliances around you. Like, as I said, like the Timmys and all, and even if they're male, they're still like really encouraging. And then I guess kind of reframing the like landscape and saying, no, I belong to be here. There's no reason why anywhere less that I shouldn't be here than anyone else. But I just need to be comfortable that like we're like fewer, let's say. And like our journey with AVA, I mean, I'll never forget our first year. We didn't have females on the bill, and I'm ashamed to say that. I really, really am. And I remember hosting a talk about this exact subject in year one and feeling quite hypocritical in a way about hosting a talk, because I was like, but and at that stage there wasn't a lot of female DJs, and to be honest, like, you know, I started it from a place of like close friends, family, our instant network. But the change I saw between year one and year two was dramatic. And then by year three, we had Orla getting some of the biggest hits the Boiler Room's ever had. So like the change was really, really quick and really exciting. And I think that created, and Marion, actually, maybe you should jump in to like tell me from your perspective rather than me like saying this, because, you know, I'm obviously talking from my angle and Marion might have a totally different angle to this, but I think having women on the bill, having women on the Boiler Room, having like a real like presence really, really started to change things I saw anyway, of like the amount of females. I mean, you've only got to look at the likes of like Sally C, who's now got a really successful. And I remember meeting Sally in Croatia at a festival and her being like, yo, I do this. And I was like, okay, great, let's work together, you know? And I think I think it's about being in the room. Like, it's about showing up and being in the room and having the conversations and like saying I'm here, and that makes a huge change. And like the conference, I remember we got heavily criticized in our review from RA about this talk, and it was a guy that criticized. I was just like, no, we're having the conversations because we need to see change. And actually, I shouldn't hold back from putting those conversations on the bill, because this is what our intentions are and this is what we hope to do. Marion, what did you think from your perspective?
Yeah, you're right in that, like, you know, the kind of the first year there wasn't many female DJs seemed to be kind of out there, and there was this explosion afterwards. I don't know why that happened or where it come from, but it was obviously like mind-blowing to see, and there's just an absolute influx of kind of female artists, and then it just like it was a kind of knock-on effect. I think it maybe give others the confidence to be like, actually, hang on, like I'm going to put myself out there. And I think confidence plays such a part, even if you're faking it. You know, sometimes it is about you fake it till you make it. You know, I think sometimes going into something quite blindly confident, until you're at a point where you're, I don't know, happy with your own skill set. Like when I started out, I was terrible. I was completely winging it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was getting paid to do it, and I was learning on the job. So it is kind of like, I think to have those opportunities, just go with it. And yeah, like confidence plays such a part. I think just putting yourself out there, taking that step. We're at a stage now where there's so many female artists out there, not so much like producers, especially locally. And I think that's something we need to work on here. But as Sarah was saying, I like from that difference from year 1 to 2 to 3 is just, it was a completely different festival, and I give a different kind of vibe as well in the green room. You know, it's that seeing faces in the room that you can relate to. I think you have to be, part of it is feeling relatable to an artist, and if you can relate, it's like it gives you the confidence that you can do what they're doing. So
yeah, and just if you aren't following AVA, follow the channels, because we've just announced a female producer and non-binary workshop, female non-binary producer workshop, which Timmy is going to be running, and this is a real opportunity for people to get like training and skills, and form like a support network as well, which will help, I think, build people's confidence as well as like their skills. So yeah, if you are interested, please do apply.
Sarah, can you drop a wee link on the chat box to that, just so everyone can grab that? Hannah, did you want to say something there? I seen your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna I was agreeing with Marion about what she was saying, and Sarah, but I guess there's always this kind of thing that I've noticed since I've moved back to Northern Ireland and been back here, is that there's somehow it's changing over the last year, actually, I think, because we're able to talk more and we're able to sit back and analyze a lot more and have a bit more solidarity with everybody else that's in the community. But I do find that, like, coming from London, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of people get a lot more given to them, and you get to meet a lot more people in the scene. And I find that in Northern Ireland, you know, sometimes it takes more encouragement. It takes more kind of tenacity to encourage people to be more bolder and be more stubborn about what they are trying to produce and what they are trying to do, and not be afraid. And yeah, it goes back to the confidence things, but it also comes to opportunity and what is available for them to take and put on board, because there is an essence of like, oh, I can't do that. I mean, I had that, but you know, I went to school in the north of England, working class, you know, very kind of like Barnsley, you know, the funding there kind of went. So there was no kind of opportunities to really make something and make it and be different. It was only when funding started to come in for like Liverpool and Capital Culture that it started to change things for me. So I guess like if anybody's on this call and they're just thinking about doing stuff, I think if you see an opportunity come up, you just fucking go for it and grab it. And just, it doesn't matter if you think, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or that maybe doesn't suit me. It's just about trying something and developing a skill of like openness, so that you do meet more people, you do try stuff, and then I think that's when the magic happens and like collaborations happen, and then you get new music, and then you get new records and new bands, and it's not just about one sound as a country. You know, there's a lot of bands here, like indie bands, rock bands. Somebody on the chat was saying, you know, like electronic music, it doesn't mean dance music. Electronic music, it can be beautiful and ambient and drone, and there's a whole world out there full of that, but there isn't many opportunities to explore that here. And I think, you know, everybody should just be very aware that we're not just a little country. We can just do stuff, and it's really cool to do that.
Hannah, that actually might be a good opportunity to mention the opportunity in the NI Music Electronic Workshop.
Yay! Yeah, so actually it's quite funny because I said, oh, I don't call myself a producer. And actually one of the things we've done with this is we haven't said this is for producers. We've just said this is for anybody who makes music. Basically, I was given the opportunity for a grant to do a mentoring scheme. I didn't want to do the mentoring scheme because I felt that mentoring can only go so far. So for me, if I was younger, I would want free synths, and I would want help with mixing, and I would probably want a little release or something in order to meet other people. And so we put all the money into that rather than sitting with me for 3 or 4 hours, which I think, you know, you will have a good chat, but you won't gain anything out of it. You might as well get some equipment that bloody costs thousands of pounds. So we've called it the NI Electronic Workshop, and I've just said that it's for anybody that has a little bit of skill in already recording themselves. So if you've got a computer with a DAW or an audio interface, just because the synths need somewhere to go and you need to be able to make a track. And then we will give you the synthesizer. We've just done something with Roland, so they're going to give us a load of stuff, which is amazing. Like, you know, between drum machines, bass, and synthesizers, like keyboard synthesizers, and a little bit of modular equipment as well. Does not matter if you have no idea what those mean or anything. It's just about play and creating something. And if someone's a bass player and they know how to record the bass into the computer, then yes, please apply. And then what we're going to do is then make a track together, or you'll go off, make a track, and Julie from Analog Catalog Studio, we're going to go down there, stay there for a couple of days, mix the tracks, learn about the studio. And then Mary McIntyre, who runs Ton Recordings in Belfast, which is an amazing kind of new wave electronic label. I mean, she's got like 30 artists, and she's based in Belfast, but they're all European. Like, I think she's only got one artist from Northern Ireland, so she's really keen to collaborate. And we're just going to do a little limited tape release and digital release with the 4 tracks, because we can only afford to have 4 people on at this stage. Maybe if we get another grant, it'll be bigger and we can have loads of people. But I just thought it was really important to create even just an inkling of more of a scene here that isn't just kind of guys selling stuff on Facebook.
I'll drop a link on that. I'll just find it in a second. But before I do on that, Orla raised a really good point a little bit further up on the chat thing, and I'm going to pivot over to Timmy and John here on this one. And again, it's just to try and understand what makes people feel confident. So young Timmy, let's go back to him, right? And you're just you've been in your bedroom, you're prepped, and you're heading out to tell people what you're about. You're trying to get gigs, you're trying to set things up. Timmy, it's like, the question is, did you feel confident? And what was it that fueled that? Because, you know, Marion and Hannah have talked about maybe confidence blocks at certain stages and difficulties, and largely there's a big theme here about maybe some women just not feeling confident to put themselves out there. So what do you reckon?
I would say at that stage I was too confident. Do you know what I mean? Young, young guy, full of his own self-importance. I've definitely maturity has brought a lot more humble side out in me over the years. But I would say 100%. What gave me the drive to want to do that and contribute and get involved was the amazing stuff that was happening on the home front. So you did have Sugar Sweet, which was kind of one of the best club nights that I've ever really seen in Northern Ireland, still to be beaten really in my books. And it was, but again, it was a male dominated environment, not in terms of the people who attended the nights, but it was a party run by two male DJ promoters. And I suppose, like, if I'm thinking about realistically, in the first sort of 15 years that I DJ'd here, there wasn't really any female DJs at all. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is where the problem stems from, and this is not just in the music industry. That a lot of the world is heavily male dominated. And I think that's what creates this thing where it's hard for women to come forward and sort of have a chat to people and see that there's opportunity there. And I am like 100% seeing a massive change in the last sort of 6 years. That lineups are different, and that has spurred on this sort of creativity thing of other people wanting to get involved, and that has been amazing. AVA have definitely played a massive role in that, in my opinion, because that was the first time that, even for me, I really enjoyed working with Sarah, because sometimes I hate working with other men because there's a real level of arrogance. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's like sort of like trying to outdo each other. Whereas I actually think when I'm working with women and things like that, then they listen, and they're a lot more calmer, and they're not trying to show off, and they're trying to do things. Whereas a lot of times men don't hear what's going on in the room because they're too busy promoting whatever it is that they're about. So I think that environment has been unhealthy. I'm so glad that it seems to be it's a progressively changing thing. We know that there's so much more that needs to be done on that front, and I think so. For me, from being a young male DJ, then I had that confidence of looking around me and seeing other people doing that, and then I was able to approach them and things like that. So if it's from a woman's perspective, then that's even more daunting, because how do you speak to those people and how do you do that? So I completely get how it was easier for me in a way to sort of make those bonds with people, to chat with people, to get support and things like that. I think sometimes as well, people don't realize that there are people that are approachable as well. I have to say that, and I think sometimes it puts people off going, I don't really want to say that in case I get shut down, or, and I have seen, John and I have talked about this recently, where we've seen stuff on social media where female DJs in Northern Ireland are being critiqued, on mixes, on things, but they're not, and in a way that the other male DJs aren't. So we're kind of going, what's that all about,
Yeah.
and that really annoyed us quite a lot, because we were working around the All Points thing at the time, and we're going, is this part of the problem, that people don't want to put stuff out there because it's being shot down because it's a man's world. Do you know what I mean? So that sort of attitude needs to stop, definitely. But it is probably off-putting for people who want to reach out and speak to people like us or other people. There's loads of other people that Marion had talked about, like Sean McCann, loads of people that had helped me, and there are people that are approachable. So do we need to create more opportunities to have these discussions, to have these workshops, to have these opportunities, and keep addressing this issue to make it better? I think the whole role model thing is really amazing right now, because Northern Ireland has got some really, and it is definitely heavier on the DJ side. When I think about the producer side, there's not as many. There's Hannah and there's a few other people. I found out about Aileen, the ship Argo, recently, who's absolutely blown me away with her music. We're doing actually our first sort of ambient compilation on Extended Play, which is going to be 12 tracks from Irish artists, male and female, all across the board. And the only brief is you can't use a kick drum. And basically, Aileen and Haley have got tracks on there. But in an ideal world, I'd love that to be a 6-6 split. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know if it will be, because of the amount of music that we're being sent and the ratios of this. So keeps coming back to this problem again, So I suppose for me, yes, if you're talking about that young thing, I had all these role models. I had all these people that I could probably feel I could reach out to, and I'm even thinking about guest DJs that came to Northern Ireland. I can't remember very many female guest DJs, as the headliners. So it indicates that at that point it was way more heavily dominated industry than it is now. So we're on this sort of uphill thing of changing it. But it definitely started out that way, and that's maybe part of the problem that we're still battling.
Thanks, Timmy. I appreciate your honesty in that answer. John, I'm really keen to get your perspective here, because John and I know each other because John runs great programs for a lot of young people wanting to get into the electronic music space. So you're going to have a perspective where you see people coming through. And the question I have is, are we finding that it's just more young men at a very young age that are putting themselves forward for opportunities like that? Or is there like an equal gender kind of representation at a certain age and then it drops off at a certain age? Just trying to get a figure on some of the demographics. Or
Yeah, I mean, I think the in terms of youth programs, I mean, we do get, you know, mixed intakes for all age ranges. Interestingly, me and Timmy were chatting about some of the more recent groups we've worked with. The girls only groups in the DJing were definitely the best. as he said, you know, it was everybody came into the workshop, was listening, wanted to take part. And when we get lads only, that's definitely not the way it rolls. But no, I would say like we would get females and males on it. And I mean, just going back on some of the stuff that we're touching on there, I mean, in terms of DJing in Belfast, like I'm aware that there are a lot of female DJs, and I think that was the thing that surprised us whenever we were looking for the producers. Marion had mentioned there as well about the knock-on effect. And I think that's the thing me and Timmy have been talking about a lot when this was coming up, about, you know, what needs to be put in place to make that knock-on effect happen. And if it's already happened within DJing, then surely, you know, that's something that, you know, is translatable over into the sort of production end of things as well.
yeah, it's a big leap of faith, though. I think for some people, I guess if you've worked arguably hard enough to establish yourself as a DJ and then to try and establish yourself in that production space as well, I guess from some of the programs we do in the OES Centre, we find that, you know, on our youth programs, actually, we find that we get more females signing up for them. But then as the age groups kind of jump a bit, it changes significantly and you get less females. And I actually want to put a question out here about like how welcoming the environment for electronic music is for women, you know, because I think we all accept that, you know, women have different challenges societally, how things are set up, perception wise, you know, and I'm sure everyone here has examples of being perceived or undermined perhaps because of purely because of their gender. We've heard a few examples of that today. So I guess, is there any reassurance we can offer to anyone today that's looking at the electronic music space and really wanting to build a career out of it, and a career that can live alongside life? And if life brings, you know, the inability to commit to nighttime slots, is that job done? You know, because again, these are some of the questions we're dealing with on other sessions of women's work, where it's like, well, if you become a mother, well, there you go. That could be a bigger struggle and an insurmountable struggle for some people because of lack of adequate support. And I mean adequate support well beyond this panel. I mean, in terms of even government and societal support for women who want to work. Just putting that out there. Anybody want to talk about that at the moment? Go ahead, Sarah.
So there's a really good talk that we did for the AVA May online with Annie Mack, and she really touches on this, which is a very sobering conversation, because it's not hard. And I don't think, or sorry, it's not easy. Sorry, it's very hard. It's not easy. I think it's important to be honest and realistic about, some of those like big challenges. I mean, I feel it as a female in my role as well. You know, if you want to start a family and the prospect of, you know, being pregnant and also taking leave and stuff. But I think that also, to be fair, is a universal problem as well. I think it would be wrong for us to say that was specific to electronic music. It's a very much a much wider, I think, challenge. What I would say though is it's important to, it's actually probably plays in even more to the conversation of like, don't hold back when you're starting out. Like really use these opportunities when you're starting out to really get to as many places and travel and make your stamp and build your reputation. I think the realities are from a promoter perspective. And let's talk about small club shows. Let's talk about that all the way up to obviously festival slots, but like small club shows, the reality is for a promoter is what they book, they need to return in ticket sales. And that's kind of obviously what they have to bear in mind, as well as having the other elements lined up and balanced lineups and all the production and everything else. So one thing I would say in defense of promoters is it's a very big challenge on their side from a financial standpoint, and they're obviously taking a risk. They're booking and agreeing to a fee, and they're taking the risk on the promotion and selling enough tickets. So I do think it's really important to look at it from both sides. And I think you're right in that there needs to be a shift in the whole dynamic of how we enjoy electronic music. Maybe it's more of a daytime thing as well as a nighttime thing. Maybe there's more of like a universal accessibility as opposed to just being in clubs where it's over 18 and you make your money on tickets and bar. And it is actually a project we're currently looking at in the background of AVA, in looking at what are other environments where you can enjoy this outside of like the traditional. Because you're right, like that is a massive challenge being a female and playing late night slots and if you're a young mother or you're wanting to have a family. But I do think that's challenging for a man as well. I mean, maybe Timmy, you could reflect on that, but like I can talk about close people to me that are going through the same thing who are male, and I think that is also a challenge for them.
Yeah, I think certainly, you know, if you're thinking about a woman being pregnant and then the time away from whatever their career or their employment or whatever it is, I think that's, no matter what aspect of life that in, that's difficult for a woman to take that career break, you know, and then come back into it and things. That's the thing the man doesn't really have to worry about. For me, from the thing of starting a family and DJing was definitely that combination of, you know, late nights and, you know, weekends and being able to support my partner with the children, you know, and things like that, and that sort of shift and how you juggle, you know, how you juggle everything around your family commitments, you know, in terms of studio time and DJing and promotion and all that sort of stuff. So it does bring changes that you just have to adjust to. But I think it is more difficult for a woman because of that time out through maternity, you know, and then having to return to career. And it feels like, I know from speaking to my wife about it as well, it's like that thing where you just feel like you've got detached from what it was that you were doing, and then you have to kind of return to it and kind of pick up the pieces a bit, which men don't ever really have the experience, you know. So I think from a woman, I certainly have spoken to female DJs as well over the years who have had to take, you know, breaks out from touring and things like that because of, you know, starting a family and doing things like that, you know. So that must be tough, you know. And it's like that thing again was almost with music these days is, you know, when you've achieved a certain level of success, then, you know, you feel like you might be closing the door on that a bit and you have to start over, you know, because of the way social media is now and popularity and people wanting to book you. So if you take a year and a half out from that, then are you starting over in terms of like trying to reinvent yourself, you know, in a way. So I think that must be very, very difficult, you know, for female DJs and producers wanting to start families and things like that. I think it is really interesting, like Hannah had said, that she's doing scores and she's doing music for TV and she's doing music for, you know, all this kind of side of things as well. And I think electronic artists, that's the way you should be. It shouldn't just be that there's only one sort of way to make a living, and that might be touring, because maybe that's not for you and you don't want to do that, you know, but there should be all these other revenues that you can kind of explore. So I suppose that's where production's really important, because if you're just a DJ, then you don't have that open to you. And this is part of the reason why we should be having this development, you know, of people who are really engrossed in music. Like Marion knows, because I'm on her case 24/7 about, I want to show you how to use Ableton. I know you've got really great taste in music. I know that what you'll create something really, really interesting. What you'll contribute is going to be really, really good. So it is part of that thing again, where it's really important for us to be able to offer these situations where we go, right, you're at this stage. Now do you want to explore this stage and see if it's for you, you know, because there's another thing that you're already experienced in and you're going to be able to lend to this, do you know what I mean? And I think that is really important, because if you're not looking at how if something happens in my life that's a massive change, is that completely shut down on me, or do I have other areas that I can work within? You know,
Yeah, it's having strings to your bow.
it is.
And multiple, and I think I would really encourage, and especially I saw Louise's comment there, is to watch that Annie Mac talk, because I think it is really honest, which is really great. And she had that stability with radio, you know, so she had that radio slot that gave her consistent, you know, visibility with music, and then that stability of income, and also then not having to rely purely on the club gigs. Now, obviously, we're not all going to end up as Radio 1 Annie Mac headline slot DJs, but having like the different avenues and the different options, you know, is really important. And I think that's what Timmy, and to be fair, that I think I would encourage that in music regardless, because there are peaks and troughs. You know, essentially you are working for yourself, and you know, you'll go through periods where you'll do well, and you'll go through periods where you won't, and having that balance. And that's the same as running a business as well, like having like a spread and having a mix is important for that level of stability.
Brilliant, guys. We have 6 minutes left, and I've got Hannah's hand up first. So before Hannah takes it away here, I just want to ask anyone in the group to think if there's a question. We will have a few minutes for it, but I'm strict on time because the person behind me is strict on me. So we're finishing at 3 o'clock. But Hannah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, it was just very quickly to say, yeah, the multifaceted thing is really important, and not to pigeonhole yourself into one thing. I think what everyone's been saying about learning different skills. A really good friend of mine, she's an electronic artist called Gazelle Twin. She'd done a couple of electronic records, and then in her first pregnancy, she did an installation where she'd had her electronic music performed with other performers, and she didn't have to do a whole tour for a whole year because they went off and did it, because her persona was in a mask anyway. So, and she's done the same for a second child. She's got different installations. There's different ways of earning an income and still keeping your name out there and doing things, if that's what you choose to do.
Exactly. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and pop in with a question? Your time is now. Should have a countdown clock for this.
It's not really a question, but it was just something I noticed that's gone through a lot of the conversations in the last couple of days about things that are being spoken about and how like women can be supported in all the different areas. And I think it was more particularly in one of the safe and sound talks is where men as allies, like how they, you know, how they can feel okay, sort of being able to sort of get behind women, whether it's, you know, whether it's supporting them through like reporting something, or whether it's them saying, well, I actually think this person's a really good artist, or they're a really good DJ or producer, and, you know, just being very vocal and using, you know, their space to do that.
Thank you, Sinead. Anybody want to add to that?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is just regarding the two workshops that are running, the AVA one and then the one with Hannah. It was just, so I'm working on a few things, but I haven't ever finished anything. And I was wondering, in the sections where you can upload music for you guys to listen to, is it okay that nothing's actually finished?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally fine. It's just so we get an idea of your sound and what setup you have actually for this one in particular.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would reiterate that, you know, it's just, you're not, in a way, you're not looking for a completely finished article. You're just looking for someone who has ideas and really wants to learn and know a bit more. So it doesn't matter what stage you're at, you know.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. So yeah, work in progresses for anyone tuned in today are kind of welcomed. I think that certainly I work in talent development within the OES Centre, and for things to develop, typically you need to let them out a little bit to whatever your trusted circle is, you know, people who might understand what it is you're doing to try and help you move that forward. I think it's a Some creatives are better than others at doing it, but I tend to find a lot of creatives struggle to finish things because, you know, the potentials are endless in lots of ways. So don't let that limit anyone, because creating forums for your work allows you the opportunity to try and move it forward, you know. But I guess harboring all these wonderful ideas to yourself kind of can be festering in itself, you know. So by all means, where you feel you can, share. And I hope, you know, today's windows even give you an indication of some of the people that are active within this space if you're not previously aware of them. And everyone in this world now is particularly reachable through email, social media and whatnot, you know. So it's all about just trying to build those kind of like circles. We've got 2 minutes left. Has anyone else got a burning question they want to put to the group here, or even a statement? Shailene?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think with COVID in the past year, a lot of what I wanted to say first was, I do actually think there's a lot of female producers in Northern Ireland. There are a lot. I am one, for example. I just don't have a lot of confidence to say it. I'm more comfortable saying co-producer. I'm trying to work on that. I know a lot of my friends are also producers of their own music. And I think that really works when you're an artist and you're creating, especially in this day and age, when you're writing with your laptop. Like, you are a producer if you're writing music and it's in any way electronic. There's a lot of my friends are producers, and a lot of my friends have spent the past year to get better at production. And it's been really great to have that space, because I think that, you know, there just wasn't that space before. We were all so busy. With what I'm assuming will be a massive influx of female producers coming, do you have any advice for where they should go to first? Or, I don't know, that's just something, a general question, but I think there's a giant wave coming. The wave has always been here. I just don't think the visibility or the celebration has been there. And is there a way maybe we could celebrate those who are coming, which I think will be a lot very soon?
Well, I mean, we are planning to celebrate through the producer workshop and the program that we're doing. I mean, that's something we've been doing actually for years through the emerging talent competitions. So I think definitely get out there, get submitting, get sharing, get your eyes and get your music heard by the right people. And you do that through these submissions. As Timmy said, you know, he works with us on these programs, and you know, him and Emmett and our whole, like, people who are involved in our programming, that's how we get to notice a lot of.
There's opportunities created through that, Sarah, isn't there? Like, because people who enter those competitions get to play at the festival, get to record for extended play, then actually go on to have careers, you know, some of them. So it's like, you know, I think it's just that thing where I would really love to see those entries, you know, not being so male dominated, as soon as possible, I guess.
Brilliant. Hannah's got her hand up there.
Yeah, it was just to say that, you know, in general, like, we talk about opportunities and things, but you are the person that makes those opportunities, and you have to work hard. It's really hard industry, and there is no way around it. Whether you're male or female, it does not matter. You have to fucking work your ass off. The one thing I will say is that preparation is the most key to every single thing that I've ever done in my job and what I've ever come across. And if you are not prepared for what you are going to experience and what you're ready for, you will find it harder. So, you know, learning skills, enjoying, and one of the most amazing things that you can do is just play and make that quality as good as possible, so that if you put something out on Bandcamp, it gets picked up by people like me putting it out on Night Tracks on Radio 3 or on Six Music. People are wanting to find good music, and it doesn't matter who you are, it will get seen and heard. So I think just working on your skills is really, really essential, and being prepped for it.
Brilliant. Listen, guys, we're 1 minute over, right? But I want to reflect on a few kind of key takeaways from today's session. Sarah made a really great point about being confident in feeling different. Love that. I've written that down. I'm going to take that forward. That's great, because I think that is kind of accepted, be it that you're sitting on the co-producer chair at the moment and quite comfortable on it, but know you're the producer. It's like, step out, be different, be that person, be confident in feeling that way. Be kind. Again, beautiful sentiment from Hannah, but I always advise anyone I work with to talk to the nice people, and that works quite well. You certainly feel better for it. Be the role models you know, Marion touched on this as well about, you know, if there aren't any role models, you know, be that person for other people. And thankfully there are real role models in the space here. You know, we have them on this call, you know, Marion, Hannah and Sarah are all role models, and we've got allies. Timmy and John are allies in the space. So again, out of today, if you know 5 new people, well then that's great for me. And then fucking work your arse off, to quote Hannah.
Yeah, that's the line I loved.
And I don't think I can top that. So I think that's a natural place to end this. All I can say is I'm so grateful for all of you for taking the time to tune in and also share your thoughts on this. Women's work is so much better for each one of you and your input. So thank you. And sorry to kind of cut it all off sharp, but I need Timmy to jump on to another session. So take care of yourselves, look after each other. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks everyone.
Bye.